See some people in the chat saying hello. T. Preston says, I'm a newbie. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. How are you? I am the new volunteer program manager for the Gwinnett County Public Library, and I am excited to be here. I see Adam is on, but thank you so much for the invite. And do you guys do this monthly? So I look forward to being with you guys every month.
That's wonderful. We miss Anne, but she said that she had a wonderful replacement, so it's really nice to meet you.
Oh, that's so nice. I love Anne.
Anne is still helping out with the project too. She's going to volunteer for some of our bigger events and help out. So
yes.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear it. Yeah.
I don't think she'll ever really retire.
Yeah. It's hard to leave good work, so. There's Zach and Stacy and Jay. Hey, everybody. Katie. Nice to see folks. We will get started in a minute. This is the Libraries Build Business monthly community discussion. These are informal, peer-to-peer. Feel free to unmute or type in the chat at any point to ask a question, say hi, share a thought. We will get started in just a minute. We have Shamichael Hallman here from the Urban Libraries Council to be our featured speaker, be talking to us about his work at the Memphis Public Libraries, as well as maybe updates from his work at Urban Libraries as well. Does anybody else have announcements before I jump into mine?
I could just mention, so for the Gwinnett County Public Library's New Start Entrepreneurship Incubator, it was recently featured in American Libraries Magazine, the most recent issue. So check us out there. And we also have an article forthcoming in Working Nations. They did an article about our project, and we'll be interviewing one of our students, our graduates rather, who has gone on to successfully start a small business. So we're excited for that. We'll be starting our next cohort in January. So this will be our 4th cohort of this program.
Oh, that's awesome. So Adam, have you built that into your budget, or do you still seek grants to do the cohorts? How are you doing that?
Well, we are actually still running off of the original grant, believe it or not, but we are at this point seeking some additional funding through grants because we are starting to run a little low. So we do need to do that to keep the program going. But for our Launchpad component, where they can pitch their ideas to a business panel to potentially receive funding, that comes from the Library Foundation, not from the grant funding. So we have that going too.
Great, very cool. Sierra, did you? Yeah, go for it.
Next week is our Bull City Business Summit with our mayor who's leaving out because we just had elections. But we are hosting a summit for those with disabilities, those who are, my mind is blanking right now, special needs and elderly, and those who went to prison, or like those who are just as involved. And we're hosting different entrepreneur cohorts next Thursday and Friday, and then we'll have some speakers. We'll have a fair for them to connect with our local resources for each specific entity, and we're really excited.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I mentioned to you, Sierra, but I'll say it again. I want you to come and be the featured speaker at one of these upcoming monthly events, and maybe you can tell us how everything went with the Bull City event. That would be great.
Will do. I gotta write that down because I will forget.
Don't worry, I'll follow up with you.
Okay, great.
Anybody else want to say hi or have an announcement or? Well, I have a few things. I was hoping Marida would be here. Marida Kipp from our original Libraries Built Business cohort. She's with the Yakima Nation Library. We just found out that she won Librarian of the Year at the ATOM conference last month. So that's super cool. Yeah, I'm going to have to email her, but I will send everyone's congratulations on that. We thought that was, obviously she's well deserved and just perfect. So wanted to share that with everyone. What else? Stacy, do you have something going on Spokane Up? I just heard about this. Shamichael hosted an event with Urban Libraries yesterday, and Mark Pond was there. He said that in partnership between Spokane County and Spokane Public, you
Yes,
had a
it's
new
startupspokane.com. So you had it mostly right.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a whole backstory to this, but we have had a shared website with the city of Spokane for a long time that basically was just a list of our A to Z resources, because people don't know which library system they should be using for digital resources, but it wasn't really very helpful, and it was just kind of blah, and it was old, so it really needed a refresh. But at the same time, Mark with the city library had been working with Greater Spokane Incorporated, which is like a big chamber for the incorporated city and the region, and they had this Startup Spokane business support thing under their umbrella, which sort of went dormant during the pandemic. Then they didn't really have the space for it, and so eventually Mark convinced them to hand it over to him. So we updated the business resources page, added a whole bunch of other things, and are working cooperatively so that it shouldn't matter. It should be much easier for entrepreneurs and small business owners and people thinking about doing any of those things to connect with the resources they need and get the referrals they need. So we're real excited about that.
Cool.
Yes.
Thanks for sharing that. That's really great. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was speaking about that yesterday, and I was like, oh, that's really cool.
I'll put the link in the chat if anyone wants to check it out.
Thank you. That would be awesome. And Adam, I need to find, if you have the link to the American Libraries handy, share that with us. Otherwise, I will post that in Slack. If you missed Adam's announcement, Gwinnett County's New Start program was featured in the American Libraries magazine. So that's really cool.
Yeah,
LibLearnX is in January in Baltimore. Registration is open, and the PLA conference is in Columbus in early April. Registration is also open for that. I would love to see folks there. We have a program at PLA related to entrepreneurship, and Adam just said that Gwinnett he and Atlas will be there. So would love to see people. But if people are at either of those conferences, please let me know. I'd love to maybe organize a lunch or a meetup where some of us could get together and hang out. We might, we did a big kind of fun happy hour event with Brass and Lib's work at the last annual conference. We'll consider that again for the summer conference coming up, but maybe something more informal, more low key for the LibLearnX or PLA, but let me know. And finally, Morgan, I see that you say you're with Brass. Maybe if you know anything about this, but I'm happy to share as well. Brass reached out to me. They are doing a mentorship program for new business librarians. They've had a ton of people sign up to be mentees, but they're still looking for mentors. I posted this in Slack earlier this week. Some of you would be a perfect fit for this as you participated in our Libraries Built Business coaching program. Some of you were coaches or being coached. So any of you that feel like you have good business experience or would love to just kind of chat with others in the field, like maybe consider that, and I can provide more information or put you in touch with the appropriate people. But I know, and maybe Stacy can share with us, but from my perspective, the coaching, the mentorship is really like it's a two-way conversation. Like you learn just as much. You don't have to feel like you're like a super expert to be able to have that relationship with someone else. So I would encourage any of you who have been doing this work or are interested in this work to think about that, because they're in need of mentors. And Morgan, you're on video. Would you like to say something? Yes.
Thank you for that. You all, this is just one of the most accessible things that you can get involved with. So if you look at ULC's work, if you look at Megan's work, a lot of the research behind this, one of the largest barriers for someone starting out in our kind of job is that they feel like they're a phony. And this mentorship program directly helps with that barrier. So along with the mentorship program, which all of you are qualified for, and I know you sit there and you're like, oh, I can't do something like that. Yes, you can. And what you have is valuable 5,000%. The other thing that's really helpful is that, oh no, Sierra, yes, you specifically, you have so much value to give to someone that is doing this for the first time, who hasn't run a business program before, who's sitting at their desk right now in a city far, far away from yours going, I haven't owned a business, so I cannot possibly help people who want to open a business. And you know that they can, and you know 5 great places to start. So you can make a difference in this. And also, if you know someone who's starting out that maybe doesn't feel comfortable coming to a situation like this, they have the New Librarians Meetup group, in addition to the mentorship program, neither of which require you to join Brass, although we would love to have you. Megan, thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about that.
Of course. Thanks for being here, Morgan, and thanks for sharing a little bit more about that. Yeah, so we definitely encourage you to consider that. I think that's all for my announcements. Does anybody else have anything before I turn it over to Shamichael? Shamichael, the floor is yours. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me. I feel like I just want to hear from Morgan for like the rest of the day. Like I want her to just kind of give me like a pep talk or something, right? It's good to be with you all. I feel like I've talked to some of you this week, and I saw Megan yesterday, so really cool with all of that. My name is Shamichael Hallman. I am, and Megan, as we said, that I'm in the airport, so it's been quiet for like the last 30 minutes. And the moment that I would get ready to talk to you all, of course, things would get loud. So please bear with me there. But I am 3 months in with the Urban Libraries Council. Prior to that, I was with Memphis Public Libraries for 6 years and some change, which was really, really an amazing experience. At ULC, I have 2 areas that I'm focused on. One is civic health. And for me, I've got that in essentially 4 categories. There is a civic education bucket. So kind of how do we help our communities know more about, what runs their community, the people they're voting for, the policies that they're voting for, how to hold people accountable, those sorts of things. There is a civic engagement bucket. It's kind of like, okay, now that you have learned a thing, like go do something, go vote, go be active in your community, be a good citizen, pick up the trash, if you see it on the street, report it, those sorts of things. There is a civic discourse and dialogue bucket, which I imagine many of your colleagues are familiar with, and you may even be doing some of that work. And we know that that's really important at this particular moment in our society, in our country, as we are, as polarized and as divided as perhaps we've ever been. And then I have kind of very closely associated with that a 4th bucket that I call encounters and interactions. And this is essentially, how do we share space with each other? What does it look like for all of us? Like what happens if in any of our given branches, what happens if the whole community shows up? So the whole representative of the community, right? Assuming that we're not into these sort of kind of homogenous communities, but there's communities that are diverse in thought and political ideology and education and income. What happens if everybody actually shows up, right? And is there some sort of tension or conflict there? Are there ways to make that highly collaborative and beautiful? In all points in between. So I'm really excited to sort of bring some of that up and doing a lot of really deep focused research over the last year and a half on that. Spent some time at Harvard talking to anthropologists and sociologists about kind of how people interact and sort of are with each other, all sorts of really great things that we could talk about later. And then, of course, the second bucket at ULC is in economic opportunity. And so there I'm thinking particularly about workforce and entrepreneurship, which is why I'm on the call. And I get a lot of inspiration from you all. I I did that work in Memphis, and I'm now sort of championing the work that you all do. Megan, she and I worked together yesterday, and we are sort of starting this process here at USC now of really telling the story, right? Of making sure, like, we all know that we do great work, right? And our, hopefully our colleagues and our coworkers know that we do great work, and hopefully people in the community know that we do great work. But there are others, you know, who just do not know. And so one of the sort of first things that I thought it would be important to do, or we thought it would be important to do here in DC, was to find all of the organizations who are based in DC, who are doing entrepreneurship on some scale, like on a national scale. So this is everyone from the U.S. Council of Mayors to the the Chamber of Commerce, these sort of folks, you know, who are making major policy decisions, who are, you know, doing in some cases direct services or providing major founding, major sort of funding in the area of entrepreneurship, who either don't know about the really amazing things that you all are doing, or are somewhat dismissive of the things that you all are doing. And so yesterday, we put out an invite to about 56 organizations and entities in DC. We got about a fourth of those, you know, who came in, and we told amazing stories. We told stories from Mid-Continent, from Spokane, from Memphis. We also had Kate Laughlin with Aerosol in the building. And so I think it was a really wonderful opportunity for some of these folks to hear firsthand what's happening with libraries. And we'll do those again, and hopefully we can have some of you all in the room, looking at you, Sierra, to have you come up next time. Since Morgan's picking on you, I'm going to pick on you as well. So we'll just pile it on. I'm going to share a little bit today about really sort of my time at Memphis, the work that we did there. I'll kind of set that up very quickly with talking about the renovation effort. So Memphis Public has 18 locations that are spread across the city. In 2016, I started working. Get your calendar out yet? Do that, Sierra. I was approached by the library to help them reimagine and give new life to the downtown location. So I'm not sure if you've ever been in Memphis before, but if you go to Memphis, Memphis should absolutely be on your map. As you think about vacations for 2024, Memphis should be on the map. You go there and get the best barbecue. No shade to the Kansas City folks or the Texas folks or North Carolina folks, but I'm just saying that Memphis has the best barbecue on the planet. Morgan's laughing at me. It's okay. It's cool. I'm good with that. The Texan, it's okay. Well, you know, it's good. It's good. It's good that y'all are second place. So it's all good. It's all good. We'll let you argue amongst second place. So you should come to Memphis. You should get some barbecue. Yeah, all barbecue is good. I'm with you. Absolutely. All barbecue is good. You can't go wrong with barbecue. But you should come to Memphis. You should get some barbecue, and you should check out the libraries. But you should particularly go into downtown Memphis and take a look at Cossitt Library. Cossitt was the very first public library that was built in Memphis. It was built in 1893, opened a couple years later. It was a kind of a major source of kind of, you know, it was like the place to be in the early 1900s for research, for sort of people were just sort of already sort of doing social sites, sort of events at that library well before, you know, what we sort of do now. But starting in the late 80s and really going through the early 2000s, Cossitt hits kind of a multi-decade phase of disinvestment. The building is sort of just falling apart at this point, and people are trying to actively just get rid of it. And the crazy thing is that this library is in the heart of downtown. It has an amazing view of the Mississippi River, one of the best views in the city. But people were, and even library directors included, were just saying, hey, like, this place is aging. We really can't do anything with it. We should just sell it to somebody else and make it available, you know, in some other use. And luckily in 2015, Memphis gets brought into this national initiative called Reimagine the Civic Commons. And we are given the really wonderful opportunity to renovate Cossitt. And so through a lot of design efforts, a lot of community design efforts, through a lot of community engagement strategies, we put together a plan to renovate this branch. and put some really cool things in it. And the branch was opened earlier this year to a lot of fanfare. It's an amazing space, but I'll show you a little bit of sort of what kind of what our thinking was in that, and kind of how that library looks now, and sort of what we were doing as the branch was being renovated, and kind of what's happened since that time. So I'm going to start off here with we worked with an organization called Groundswell. They are a design firm in Philadelphia. And here we were really trying to think about, what, particularly in the Memphis context, for a library branch that was on the chopping block, for a library branch that was had really the lowest sort of engagement and door count amongst the entire system. What might it look like to give that place new life? And so it starts with this concept statement. It's really rooted in saying, hey, this library and the system as a whole is doing really amazing work. Its mission is meeting the needs of the community. But what's sort of the next iteration? What's sort of the next phase of this library's life? And so what happens is we start to look at what is happening in the city. What is the energy of the city at the moment? Where's sort of the heartbeat of the city? And if you know anything about Memphis, it's definitely in barbecue, but you also know it's one of the most creative places in this country. I think the folks that are there are some of the most highly creative folks you could see. And we started to figure out, like, what would a concept be that really centered these individuals? And so we ended up with a couple of things. So the renovation took place really in 3 phases. So the first phase was the courtyard. But this is kind of a picture of it as it looks right now, but it looks much different than this before. And many people would just walk by this building and say, hey man, I didn't even know that there was a library downtown. And so we started thinking about, okay, well, what role does design sort of play in this? And we ended up with the space that you can see here. The couple of things that were sort of, fortunately, I couldn't pull the before picture in time, but I'll talk to you through about kind of what we did here. So we've added these steps. Beforehand, you had to sort of walk to one end of the other street and walk down into the courtyard. But these steps kind of made the space much more inviting, and it opened it up so that even if you were sort of walking by the sidewalk, you had to sort of stop and see what was going on. In this actual courtyard, there was all green space. It was all grass, and so people would sit. We would do some outdoor programming. But we thought what might it look like to sort of up that up a notch. And so what we ended up doing was paving half of this and adding some flexible seating options here, right? So we've got benches here now. We've got tables and chairs here now. The Wi-Fi comes into the courtyard, so you can really be anywhere in this courtyard area and enjoy the Wi-Fi. And we still preserved about half of the green space, and that sort of allows us to, we have an art exhibit there, and we can still do our outdoor programming, whether that's, yoga, Tai Chi, afternoon stretching, that sort of thing. So that was kind of the first step there in terms of like, how do we begin to transform the outside space? Oh, also the lighting. We added, the signage was already there, but we added this, and it's actually very inexpensive LED lighting on the outside of the building, and it's programmable, so we can change it, so like we do every year in May, Memphis in May, there's a huge thing there. We have a music festival, we have a barbecue fest, and so we light these lights up, and we're kind of in the Memphis colors. When the Grizzlies are playing, we've got the Grizzlies colors that are there, and so it's just a really wonderful way of sort of embedding the everyday life of the library into the greater culture of the city. So that was a huge piece. We added a cafe, actually. This location of the 18 locations. This is the first location that actually has a cafe. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that cafe in a moment. We added a ton of art, both in the outside and in the inside. We added a bunch of art, and this particular piece, it pays tribute to sit-in demonstration. So I talk about the library being built in 1893, opened in 1895. For the first 65 years of the library's existence, Black people could not go into this branch. You had no access to this branch as an African American. There was actually a branch down the street, like a mile down the street, that was the Negro branch. They got all of the inferior resources, the books that were discarded. They went to this branch. It was just kind of a travesty of, like, being Black in Memphis at that time. And so what happens is in the spring of 1957, there's a gentleman named Jesse Turner who files a lawsuit and says, no, hey, this is not right. You have to give us access to this library. and the lawsuit goes nowhere. It just sits on, someone's desk and just doesn't make it anywhere. And it stays that way until 1960. In 1960, there are a group of Black college students who are at the local HBCU in Memphis who do a number of sit-in demonstrations at libraries and also at some other public places. And that becomes the thing, sort of seeing these young folks be arrested, put in jail, lose their livelihood in some cases. That sort of becomes the catalyst that picks up this lawsuit. And in the fall of 1960, Memphis Public Library desegregates. And so this art piece actually pays tribute to that. You can see kind of in the back there's some lawyers that are here, and these are all African-American lawyers who tried the case in Memphis that led to the desegregation of the library system. We added some more meeting room spaces, right? I mean, you can never probably have enough meeting room spaces. But I think this, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more, may have been the most important thing that we did. We added this multi-use performance area that's about 2,500 square feet, and it can sort of have about 8 different configurations, right? Like, so it can be a place for film screenings. It can be a place for theatrical performances. It can be a place for concerts. It can be a place for corporate gatherings. And so it's a really, really highly flexible space. But how we ended up using this space, particularly how we use it to support local creative entrepreneurs, is something that I think you might find interesting in a moment. We added studio spaces. So there is an audio space that you can record, right? And I mean, this is probably not new. This is not different than many of what you all have in the audio space. There's really everything you need to be able to do a podcast, to be able to do a video, audio recording, right? So we've got recording software. We have lots of hardware. We've got microphones, all of this stuff, really top-notch, high-quality stuff that's there. And then on the other side, there's for video. And so we have green screen kits. We've got some really high quality, cinema quality cameras that you can do, stop motion with. You can do, video testimonials about your products and programs. You can do that in the library, and people actually do that. People who have a local business and have local customers, it's not uncommon for them to actually bring a customer, one of their customers, to the library to record a testimonial video, which is actually pretty cool. And then we have a co-working space. And the co-working space is it is like fully operational co-working space. We have lockable storage there. You can get a hot desk if you want. Like if you just need a desk for the day, you can reserve that through software. But if you have a business that has up to 5 employees and you actually need a place for the day for your staff to work, like you can actually go and reserve a desk, a whole table, right? And you get lockable storage so folks can lock their belongings up, their purses up, go to lunch, go to a meeting outside the library, and then come back to the library and get back to work. And that has been really, really interesting. It's sort of bringing a different sort of energy to the space when you've got entrepreneurs who are really doing their business out of the library, right? There's sort of really interesting conversations that bubble up. You have entrepreneurs talking to other entrepreneurs and sort of collaborating on things. And it does something to the space when you have that sort of energy, right? That even when there's not a library program happening, that these sort of conversations of people are collaborating and coming up with ideas just makes the space feel really vibrant. I'm very quickly, I don't like to go to like conferences or go to sessions where you only hear like the great things and people make you it's like, oh, everything's amazing, everything's great, there are no problems in our library, we got it going on, we doing the thing. Like, that's not me. I don't like doing that. I'm gonna be real with y'all. So I'm gonna share with you a couple more things that I think we really got right in this process, particularly as it relates to entrepreneurship. And then a couple of things where I think that we've got to grow in areas for us to grow. So in terms of what we got right, let me get back over here very quickly. This is how the building looks outside now. This beautiful space. You can see we've got some seating over here. We've got green space here. We added some planters on the walkway. Again, these sort of capture your eye. I think as we think about how we can be more welcoming to the community, that we have to always be thinking about the role of design. Like, design plays such a huge factor in creating a space that feels welcoming, that feels inviting, a place that you want to be, right? And so, we've got vibrant colors. We've got plantings that in the spring, they bloom and they're really nice colors. Here's another, actually, this is an art piece here. And Megan, I should have got a different picture of this. I apologize. So Tennessee, our state bird is the mockingbird. It's the mockingbird. And so what we have here is a book with a mockingbird coming out. And on the wings of the mockingbird, we have words of a book. And those words are words from local elementary school kids who told us, like, we asked them, hey, what do you love about the library? They said all sorts of really interesting things, right? And so some of their words have become the pages of the book, which are also the wings of the bird. And it's just a really, really beautiful art installation. And these things make a difference, y'all. I mean, they really, you know, we think a lot about just kind of our particular program or our particular, you know, thing that's happening in our part of the library. But these things on the outside, adding these chairs that have a pop of color to them, you know, having a space that's clean, that's, you know, got beautiful grass, it's not trashy. You know, and as a staff, we had to all sort of pitch in here and make sure that this space is beautiful. These things bring in new audiences. You know, they bring, like, people stop by and say, oh, hey, I heard you all have a cafe here, or man, it just looked very beautiful out here. I just wanted to come in and take a look at this space. So, you know, I think we have to always be thinking about the role of design as we try to think about, you know, bringing in new audiences. So where do we excel, particularly as it relates to entrepreneurship? Number one, we knew our audience. We asset, I mean, you know, as I think about the playbook, which is an amazing playbook. So hats off to all of you all who, you know, who had some part in that. We asset mapped and did an asset map to our asset map, right? I mean, like, we just wanted to make sure that we knew our community. And I think we really did an awesome job here. And much of this work was really getting outside of the library, getting outside of the walls. You know, anytime that we could be off the desk, anytime that we could build in opportunities to go into the community, we did, and we took it serious. And sometimes when we went into the community, we weren't going for the purpose of saying, hey, can we tell you about this thing that we're doing at the library? Can we tell you about this equipment that we have? Can we tell you about this program? We didn't. A lot of times, like, we just went and listened. We just said, hey, like, can we just be a fly on the wall of a meeting that you're already having? You don't have to acknowledge us. You don't have to say anything to us or about us. Like, we just want to be listening to what people, you know, the conversations that people are having in our community. And I put that first for a reason, because I think it really started there, right? And so as you're thinking about in your branch and in your system, man, like, what does it look like for us to go to the next level? I would say you've got to start there. You really have to start with understanding who your community is, and sort of understanding what the pain points are, right? And what we began to understand was that there was a huge pain point and a huge opportunity to engage the creative entrepreneur. In Memphis, there's so many people who are just kind of hustling, man, you know, who are, you know, they've got a soap business. They're doing something with jewelry. They've got a t-shirt and a sweatshirt. They've got, you know, some sort of, you know, perfume or lotion or fragrance that they're selling. Some folks are actually doing shoes, which is really interesting. You know, folks are just coming up with all these sort of really creative things. And it was interesting that even as we were figuring that out, we came across a report that Etsy, someone had worked with Etsy. I'm sure y'all familiar with Etsy, the creative marketplace. And they had done some research in Memphis, and they said that, you know, it's our opinion after our research is that the entrepreneur who has the most need in Memphis is the middle-aged white woman. And I'm like, well, hang on, man. Memphis is 63% Black. Right. And I know that there's some really creative white women who are doing some amazing things. And I certainly know I want to make sure that everybody has what they need. But there are a slew of folks who have no access, who have no resources, who are just sort of, you know, ingenuity or like by force, you know, having to come up with things. And like, we thought it would be interesting for us to go and figure out how we could serve those folks. And so right after the engagement, I think the next thing is partnerships. Right. And so we knew who these people were. We knew what they needed. And for us, it was important to say, okay, well, what can we do as a library? Like, you know, what's within our capacity in terms of staff capacity, in terms of what we have, in terms of resources, in terms of space, like, what can we do? And then like what should we do? Right? Like, okay, well, you know, there's some needs that the community has that we're not meeting right now, and we're actually equipped to meet those needs. So we should go and do those things also. But then also, like, what can't we do? Right? And it's very important for us to say, like, I mean, that's just some stuff that it's just kind of outside of our expertise. And we can certainly learn how to do that stuff, but maybe we could also figure out who in the community is already doing that and let's just ask them to sort of come alongside us and partner with us to help to be able to better serve folks, right? And so for us, those partnerships came locally and they came nationally. So locally, we partnered with organizations such as ArtUp. ArtUp is an incubator for creative entrepreneurs in Memphis. They do all sorts of really, really amazing work in helping entrepreneurs go from idea to implementation. They help artists particularly think about, tax law and getting access to capital. And we said, hey, and this was actually kind of right as the pandemic was really roaring up. And they were saying, hey, we do a really good job. We know how to meet the needs of entrepreneurs, but there are only so many people coming through our doors. And even with all of the outreach that we're doing right now, we're only meeting the needs of certain folks. What might it look like to partner with the library? And we said, hey, well, we're actually in the very same place where we know that we're meeting the needs of some people, but not all people. So what might it look like if we've got this co-working space here, we got this open space that, is not being used on certain days. Like we knew that there were certain days when this space would not be used. And said, what if you and your organization actually came and worked out of this space on the days when it's open, and your staff can come, you can bring your resources, and you all can conduct your business as you normally do. And also, meet some new entrepreneurs, or maybe bring some new entrepreneurs to this space. And so partnering with them has really been amazing in terms of our ability to increase our reach and our ability to really relieve our staff of having to do like they have to do everything, right? So that's been very, very important. Is kind of partnering with folks like this, and there are others, but they're great. And then this other spaces with this is called WooCommerce. I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with WooCommerce. You can maybe just raise your hand if you are. As we were sort of listening, right, as we were kind of walking throughout the city and popping up at farmers markets and the food hall and parks and stuff, we also started popping up at holiday markets. And this is a really, if you want to know your local entrepreneur, it's one of the best places you can go. It's getting ready to hit that season now in a couple of weeks where, in lots of cities, there's going to be the holiday markets. And just to go and sort of see, who are the people, who are the folks that are selling their goods. And as we did this, kind of the first round started in really 2019, we found a number of entrepreneurs who were selling their goods strictly via social media, had no website, no online presence. It was like, okay, you got to go through us through Facebook. Like if you go onto Instagram, you'll see pictures of our merchandise and you can just send us a message and then we'll facilitate the transaction there, right? Which is great. It's fine if that's what you do. But we said, hey, well, would a website actually help you out? Like, in terms of your inventory, in terms of your shipping logistics and those sorts of things, like would it be helpful for you to actually have a place? And people say, yeah, like, of course it would be good for us to have a thing. So we said, well, what's sort of preventing you from that? And some people say, well, hey, I don't have time. Like, I don't have time to go and try to go build a website. Maybe I know how to do it. I can go get on Squarespace, but I don't really have time to do that. I've got a job, a full-time job, and then got this, side hustle that I'm trying to get off the ground. So I don't have time. Some people had time, but they didn't have the expertise. Like they didn't, even with kind of a drag and drop, easy software, like they still didn't make sense to them of how to actually create a website. So we did two things. Number one, we reached out to the local tech community because we knew there was a strong tech community there, right? Folks who just brilliant, who build apps, who build websites, who build all sorts of really great things. And we said, hey, y'all are amazing. We know that, you all do really great stuff. There's another group of your fellow citizens in this city, who make and create really amazing things. And they sell these things right now without the assistance of a website. Would you be willing to donate some of your time to help these folks get their website off the ground? And overwhelmingly, these folks in the tech community said, yeah, right. These are people who are, these are Python folks. These are, HTML folks, whatever it might be. We said, okay, well, now we have a group of people who are willing to help these folks out. Let's see if we can find software. And so we started scaling. We knew there was no one locally. So, okay, well, we've got to go national now. And so we started looking at, who are the national players? And I had been a WordPress user I've been using WordPress probably for 15, 20 years now. And I knew that WooCommerce was a software that laid on top of WordPress, and that we could make that happen. And so I reached out to the outreach person at WooCommerce and said, "Hey, we've got these entrepreneurs in Memphis who, make really amazing stuff. They need a website, and we found a couple of people in the community who were technologists who were willing to help them out. Your kind of flagship software that handles all of the the shipping and the taxes and logistics and stuff is $300, and these people cannot afford that. Could you help us out?" And they said, "Yeah, you're the first library to even give us a call. This sounds great. We'll give you 50 free licenses." And I was like, wow, that's amazing. So now we're in the process. The pandemic threw us off, right? Because all of us have an "and the pandemic happened" story. So this is our "and the pandemic happened" story, where we're now, connecting entrepreneurs, with some of this software so they can kind of get up and running. Now, the thing is, WooCommerce has actually changed drastically since then. So we don't actually need the software anymore. We just need to get these folks, help them, kind of get their websites up and running. So now, I think it's kind of a thing of thinking about, partnerships. Sometimes we're only thinking about what's local. Well, there are a lot of national players, who might be willing to help you out as well. And that's one of the things I'm really excited about being here in DC with folks like Megan. We can have the conversations of, what can we be doing here in DC to drive resources to all of you all's branches. And so that's something that'll be very important for us. We experimented with staffing models. I think that was the next important thing for us. We don't have library science requirement here. That's pluses and minuses there. I think one of the pluses there is that we get to bring in some really cool people. So we brought in Ariel Colbert, who is a photographer. She's an amazing photographer. She's done work for Nike. She's done work with Gap. Just a really amazing person who said, "Hey, work's slowing up for me a little bit. I'm like, what you got?" And we said, "Okay, well, let's work out something." So we've brought her on. And she sits in the seat of what we call a programming specialist. So she's mainly just thinking about programs, right? But because she's done such amazing things, both as a photographer and also as an entrepreneur, she kind of brings that experience to the branch, right? So she's not only training staff on how to do better programming, she's also doing, programming to the community, and it's really, really amazing. And then I think a number of you all are playing around with the innovator in residence model. We did this as well, and we went and found a 20-year radio vet. Her name's Ina Esco. And so she has come on as our first innovator in residence. We give her 25. We got this money through our library foundation, and we give her $2,500 a quarter. And with that money, she has an office space. So we took one of those meeting rooms that I showed you in the design, and that is now her office space for the quarter. So she does her business out of the space. She does a number of one-to-one programming for anyone who's interested in podcasting, whether it's kind of one-on-one or like, hey, I need to be able to sort of find my first sponsor, right? So whether it's one-on-one or like these larger things that she did. So she actually did this kind of regional pop box festival, which drew people from all over the kind of Mid-South region. This was just a little while ago, and she literally, like, there were hundreds of people that showed up to this thing, right? So you've got entrepreneurs now. I mean, you've got podcasters now who are, maybe have just been kind of hobbyists and are now seeing the library as an essential resource to help them, learn how to make better content, learn how to, get their paperwork in order, learn how to secure their first sponsor, right? And so this has been a really, really huge thing here. And so when Ina's time is done, we'll be looking at another artist that we can bring in, over the next, 4 or 5 iterations of that. Of course, I'm saying I'm not there anymore, and I'm still in kind of an advisory capacity there. We'll be bringing in lots of folks in the community who, who are awesome at what they do, and who wouldn't mind giving up 15 hours a week to be in the library, being a subject matter expert. Last thing very quickly, and I'll say also on the partnerships. So the partnership thing that we did, I was actually going through grad school as I was really trying to refine our partnership model. And so I use this partnership matrix that has been amazing for me, where we want to really kind of, this first area is looking at, what does your venture actually have? Like, what are you ultimately hoping to do? And then what do you have in terms of expertise in terms of assets, in terms of social capital, in terms of your reputation in the community, in terms of the culture of your organization. Kind of what do you bring to the thing, and then what does the person that you hope to partner with bring to the thing, right? Their expertise, their asset, their knowledge, their reputation in the community, and then what do you sort of hope to like in working together? What do you hope to sort of see happen in the community? What's sort of the good that you want to see happen? And I will say that really having this sort of framework has really what it helped me do was it helped me be very, very targeted and very, very focused when I sat down to talk with someone that I was hoping to partner with, that I had already went to their website, I'd already looked at their, looked at their videos or their social media content. I'd already looked at their strategic plan. I'd already looked at their annual report, and I was able to fill this in and talk to exactly what I knew what those folks were doing. I knew what was important to them, and I knew how to weave that into the mission of the library. And so as you're thinking about, maybe getting stronger at partnerships or bringing in your first partner, something like this could be very, very helpful. Lastly, because we were going through the renovation process, we got money, right? Like there was some money. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, this probably wouldn't have happened if we, it would have happened. It would have taken much longer if we had not been going through a renovation. But we went and got the best software, the best hardware that we could get. This Rodecaster Pro, if you have podcasts, folks in your community, it's expensive. It's $700, but this is an all-in-one production studio. I mean, you can do everything you need to do here. You can do intros, you can do outros. You can bring in multiple people. There's actually an option where, if you are Skyping someone from your phone, you can plug them into this and interview them from the phone into this thing, right? And so it is just an amazing piece of software. So we got stuff like that. We got this Blackmagic cinema camera that's $1,300, right? And listen, when I told our foundation about this, some people scoffed at me, like, why would you get something that expensive? But I cannot tell you that the type of person who is coming into the library now saying, hey, I want to use that. Give me your green screen, give me that thing. I bring in my actors, I bring in my set, we'll make the thing happen, right? And so being able to go after that really top-notch equipment was really, really awesome. I know my time is almost up, so I want to just share two last things. One, what we're trying to get better at. Number one is understanding impact, right? So now we got this new space, we got this amazing equipment, we got these beautiful, areas to work in, and we know that entrepreneurs are coming here. We know that they are, attending workshops. We know that they're getting books in the collection. We know that they're using, databases. They're doing market research. They're trying to understand the customer. We know that we're having an impact, but we're having a very difficult time sort of articulating what that impact is, like beyond access, right? Like what's happening in the lives of these individuals? What is their story? Are they starting their business? Are they finding the grants? Are they, are they securing, their first contract, right? And this is kind of as we think about privacy and we think about respecting the customer, we have to figure out where that line is. But I think if we're not able to get out and really clearly articulate the impact that we're having on the people that are using our services in our libraries, I think it's going to be tough, right? I think the other thing that we're trying to get better at is finding new audiences. So we know this core audience of young Black creative entrepreneurs. They're there now. They're there every day now. They're using every single spot in the library, every resource. But now we've got to say, okay, well, we can't settle there. We've got to ask ourselves, and we are asking ourselves, who is not coming through these doors? What entrepreneurs are we not seeing? Are they immigrants? Are they women? Are they older population? Are they just as involved folks? Who are the people that we need to be? And so the same thing that we did before in terms of the outreach, we've got to do again. And then I would say lastly, because we are bringing in these highly specialized staff, they lack some of the other things that they need, right? I mean, these folks don't have library science degrees, right? And so we have to sort of bring them up to speed there. And sometimes even some of the more basic customer service, in training, right? Readers advisory sort of things, right? That they don't have. And so trying to figure out like how we can best onboard and give these folks training while also sort of allowing them to do what they do has been sort of a tension point. I want to so lastly here, and then we can do some questions, go back to what this, as I showed you the space, I talked about this performance space and what I think is so important about that space. We did a thing, and I'll share this with you all later on. Please don't share it. I don't have permission to actually put it out in the full space. But we, over the course of about 6 months, brought in about 100 either individual artists or arts organizations. And we wanted to sort of hear what they were saying. We wanted to say, hey, if we don't do anything else, we're going to build a solid relationship with the arts community. We're going to really set ourselves up for future partnerships here, right? And as we started doing that, we learned a couple of things that was really, really interesting. We learned that space was a prime, that there were so many, of the 100 plus folks we talked to, 60 of these people said, hey, I don't have space. Like, I don't have space to rehearse. I don't have space to perform. I don't have space to be able to bring in, my team. I'm getting ready to do this huge production, or I'm getting ready to do this one person production. I have nowhere to sort of do the thing, right? And we said, okay, well, we think we can make something happen there. We think that we can create a model using this new performance space where we don't have to charge you a whole bunch of money, because we know that doesn't work. In fact, that we can do a mutual aid model and not charge you a dime, and say, hey, you can use this space however you want. In exchange, though, what we would really love for you to do is offer something free to the community, right? So we've worked out a model and are still working out a model where, creative entrepreneurs can use this space to host events, to host performances. And most of these are happening kind of after hours, library hours. And they're able to do their thing, able to make amazing things happen. And then during library hours, they are doing everything from free performances to sort of a how I built it, where they're inviting in a new generation of artists to show them exactly how it all works. And so I don't want to go much longer, and then I will stop and see if there are any questions, any thoughts, comments, suggestions. I'm open to it all. Yes, I can share the matrix. I will do that. My school might not be happy with me if I do that, but I will do that for you.
Thanks so much, Michael. That was what I was going to say. Me and Kristen, at least, are huge fans of the Matrix. Getting some love in the comments. If anybody has questions, feel free to post in the chat, or just feel free to unmute. We have a few more minutes. Shamichael, thank you so much. That was super awesome, super inspiring. Looks like you're getting a question from Rachel.
Let's see. Did Memphis receive grant money to fund these projects? To fund the renovation work, yes. That money came both at a local, state, and national level. The equipment that I shared with you, much of that equipment came from Foundation. The Library Foundation, they were one of the things that we were not ashamed to do, y'all, and you shouldn't be ashamed to do, is tell your story, right? I mean, we used you could probably Google Cossitt Library, and you'll have 7 or 8 articles that come up. Every time we had opportunity to talk about what's happening at our library, we did it. And so we went to the foundation and said, yeah, we know y'all are doing good stuff. We'll help you find the money to do it. And so they did. So yeah, I mean, I was that equipment that we bought, the cinema cameras, the Rodecaster, almost all of that came from our Library Foundation. Any other questions? I'm happy to answer. I'm going to throw a link in the chat that hopefully you can get to this. You can just get to everything that I shared today. All right, it's all there.
I just wanted to say I love to see that you took a very entrepreneurial approach to working with entrepreneurs. So that's all I wanted to share. I love how you guys really figured out what the community needs, and went that direction first, and kind of the same advice entrepreneurs are given. So I love that story. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, and Jenny, my only sort of regret is I didn't have a chance to work with you, but maybe that'll happen soon.
Well, you know what? We actually had Blake from the Cossitt Library. We worked with him. I know he was so stretched thin, so I know he didn't get to be involved as much as possible. But we are in touch. But I think just with the reopen, he got really bogged down with a lot of stuff. So but we are glad to still have him.
Cool. You should be able. Okay, yep. So everybody's in there. All right. So everything's there that I just talked about. I can add. I'll add to this folder that that unpublished report about the working with the artists. I think you might find it helpful.
Thank you so much. This was a wonderful presentation. Thanks everyone for being here. I put the exit ticket, that's just a 30-second, 3-question evaluation in the chat. Please fill that out. You can give us some feedback on today, the program, and then also just ideas for what you'd like to see in the future. For December, we have Chris Harris coming. He's a school librarian, but he does, he's like a tech nerd too. He's going to talk to us about like economic opportunity and AI. He did a similar presentation for the Libs Work group a few months back. So if you saw that, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, come back in December. And what else? Oh, and we have this session was recorded. It'll go up on our YouTube page. You can check out any of our past recordings there. Yeah, I agree with Chris and Shamichael. There were no audio issues. You can sort of hear it, but like it was great. No problem.
Fantastic.
Great. Well, thanks again so much. Thanks for safe travels to Seattle. And thanks everyone else. I will keep the line open for a couple minutes in case anyone wants to chat, but otherwise, enjoy the weekend, enjoy the long weekend if you have tomorrow off, and take care.
Thanks, everyone.
As always, great program, Megan. Thank you.
Good to see you, Janet. Thanks for being here.
You too. Love it.